webinar series. So I'm happy to welcome you all once again and introduce my co-host, Assistant Professor Swati Seshadri. Over to you, Swati, for a few quick announcements, and then I'll be happy to begin the formal program.
A very good morning to one and all present here. Just a few instructions before we start. Request all participants to kindly mute your audio and keep your videos off throughout the entire session. And kindly do not press the share screen button, as it is only meant for the speaker to present their presentation. In case you have any queries, you can raise the questions in the chat box, which will then be addressed by the resource person. And just another important instruction is that those of you who have joined in with an alternative email address than the one that you have registered with, kindly rename yourself. This is especially for the students who have joined in with their department numbers. Kindly rename yourself with the name that you have registered with. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Swati. I now invite Ms. Gina Baby, our PhD scholar from the Department of Chemistry, to lead us in prayer. Gina?
Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount, I'm fixed upon it, mount of God's redeeming love. Blessed is the one who finds wisdom and the one who obtains understanding. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 30. Heavenly Father, we acknowledge our dependence upon you as we endure this new normal in our lives. We pray for the sick, those living in fear, healthcare takers, and administrators. Lord, be their healer, comfort, and protection. Father, we come to you today seeking your guidance and wisdom as we progress to the second day of Research Matters series, Research Agenda, Management, Practices, and Ethics, organized by Research and International Programs Center, Stella Maris College. Father, shower your blessings upon our resource persons of the day, Dr. Lillian Jasper, Principal and Associate Professor in English, Women's Christian College, Chennai, and Dr. Father Ignacy Muthu, former Vice Chancellor, University of Madras, Scientist and Director, Entomology Research Center, Loyola College, Chennai, and all of us who have gathered here today. We pray that you would deepen our comprehension, broaden our thinking, and transform our understanding. Help us to go closer as a community, enlightening and reaching out to one another. For you are our wise counselor, our perfect teacher, and our faithful friend. We praise you for your goodness and your mercy. Amen.
Thank you, Gina, for your prayer and blessing. It is my privilege now to invite our principal, Dr. Sister Rosie Joseph, to welcome this virtual gathering, and Dr. Lillian Jasper in particular. Over to you, Sister.
Thank you, Renuka. Good morning. I'm very happy to welcome you all to this fourth round of the webinar series of Research Matters. I am very pleased to welcome our resource person for the first session of the day, Dr. Lillian Jasper, Principal, Women's Christian College, Chennai, and illustrious alumna of our college. She did her undergraduate and postgraduate programs at Stella Maris before moving on to do research programs at MCC. A nature lover and environmentalist, Dr. Jasper has extensive research experience and has introduced innovative courses at WCC. We are extremely happy to have you here with us, Dr. Jasper, to speak on a topic very relevant to our times, research and its impact on institutional academic development, challenges, and opportunities. The Stella Maris International Center for Multidisciplinary Research, which was established in 2013 to promote a rigorous research orientation in the college, has come a long way in encouraging and supporting research endeavors. Today's sessions are part of a series of webinars that focus on a wide range of perspectives on the process and production of original and high quality research through projects, publications, presentations, and so on. An underlying objective is to encourage and support undergraduate students in the research initiative with the help of faculty as guides and mentors. While these actions have advanced the research culture of the institution, we need to move ahead into a research excellence framework that will give the institution a leading edge in the area of research and added advantage in community outreach interventions. A warm welcome once again to Dr. Lillian Jasper for consenting to take on this project in the midst of her busy schedule. We look forward to listening to you, Dr. Jasper. With your considerable experience in research and teaching, we are sure to learn new ways and methods to make use of opportunities to develop our research programs. A warm welcome to all the participants too. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, sister, for your very motivating and inspiring words to begin our program with, and your warm welcome to all of us. I now call upon Dr. Lakshmi Priya Daniel, the IQAC coordinator of Stella Maris College, to present and introduce our eminent speaker for the inaugural session. Over to you, Dr. Lakshmi Priya.
Thank you so much, Dr. Renuka. It is absolutely my privilege and honor to introduce Dr. Lillian Jasper, Principal and Secretary of Women's Christian College, Chennai. Dr. Lillian has a PhD in English Literature from the University of Madras and has served the college in various capacities as Dean of Residence, Coordinator of IQAC, and Value Education. She has led a number of UBCHEA projects on local knowledge, organized conferences, served as resource person, and co-authored a travelogue. Having introduced a course in eco-literature, she takes students on eco trips to jungles in the Western Ghats, a biological hotspot, to sensitize students about conservation. As a UBCHEA fellow in 2007-2008, her leadership skills were honed at De La Salle University, Philippines, Randolph College, Virginia, and at Harvard University, Massachusetts, USA, where she attended a 3-week leadership training program in July 2018. She has received the Outstanding Leadership Award in December 2018 for her ongoing commitment and exemplary leadership to Women's Christian College by the International Peace Commission, Florida. Dr. Lillian hopes to gain insights in global perspectives on good leadership as she steers her college towards internationalization. On a more informal note, I have had the pleasure of interacting with Lillian a few times and have been so taken with her simplicity, keen knowledge, and kindness, and above all, her passion for life and nature. Thank you, Lillian, for being with us today, and I'm looking forward to hearing you speak on research matters. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm always overwhelmed when I come back to my alma mater because of the love and affection that is showered upon me, for all the kind words. I would especially like to thank Sister Rosie, Principal Stella Maris College, Dr. Renuka Rajratnam, and the management of the college for giving me this opportunity. It is a very nostalgic moment for me as I speak to you as an alumna of the English department. And this is a topic which I think all principals of colleges and IQAC coordinators are really bothered about, along with the research deans. So I just thought of it as something which would motivate, or the speech of mine. I'm sure that you're getting a lot of inputs because I spoke to Renuka and understood that people from IIT and various other research areas are talking to you. So obviously you would have got enough knowledge about funding agencies and how to go about hardcore research and so on. So mine is going to be softcore research. I thought, because as a woman, this is something which really appealed to me. And for many long years, this is what I was very comfortable with. So I thought I would start off in this vein, where I would talk about my own personal experiences and give you practical suggestions on how to go about research easily and probably make you walk this pathway. So research has become the buzzword in educational institutions across the country thanks to NAC, NIRF, and other funding bodies. So constantly, IQAC coordinators and research deans are harassed by these bodies, and they in turn will pass the buck to you. They'll be like, I don't know, it happens in my campus all the time. So how many research projects do you have? How many articles have you published, and so on? Because we have to give these data to government bodies and others. So on the 23rd of this month, I'm sure your college also would have received this communication from the Regional Joint Director of Collegiate Education regarding career advancement schemes, what they call a CAS. If you wish to move from, assistant professor to associate professor, or from 6,000 grade pay to 7,000 grade pay, there is a lot of emphasis on research and projects. You have to answer a questionnaire and have some committee go through it and so on. Gone are the days when you can rest in peace after you become permanent. Earlier, once a person becomes permanent, they're happy. Oh, I've got a job and that's it. Let me lean back and relax. It's no longer like that. Today, I'm going to share my own research journey. Research provides a number of opportunities to discover new fields, keeps you inundated with creativity and fresh ideas, and replenishes your knowledge base. Fortunately, I tumbled into research without thinking of it as hard, strenuous work. For many, research equals a PhD, a strenuous exercise related to career advancement, which most of us take up in spite of regular college workload plus family commitments. As women is tough. If you're married, you have family commitments. And if you're unmarried, you're on your own. And both ways, it is very difficult for women to venture into research. I remember wandering through the maze of Madras University Library to pick up some priceless books on anthropology and sociology in 1991. In those days, we didn't have this access to to books online and so on. So we had to go to these libraries. And some of these libraries, especially Madras University Library, used to be totally deserted. And so I had to wander through those shelves, lovely books, but all dusty and not many people there. So as I was walking, I realized that there was one creep following me. And then I sort of had to take a detour, go into the reading room before I lost him. So these are all problems that we used to face. One of my colleagues who was collecting information in Theosophical Society came face to face with a fox. She was terrified. Fortunately, the fox lost interest in her after following her for some time. So these are all issues that might follow you when you do research. Remembering my own research, I'd got married and had 2 cesareans in between, and life was not easy. My mother-in-law, her daughter, who was 8 years older than me, was just submitting her thesis. She'd come down. She told me, my daughter is completing her PhD now, but you're a sad story. That's exactly what she told me. I mean, we were very good friends later on, but at that point, this sort of was like a barb for me. We became very good friends, but those first 2 years, I mean, you're getting to know each other and things like that. So this was something which worked beautifully in a different way. It awakened all the fighting spirit in me. I had a 1.5-year-old kid. and a 7-month-old fetus within me. I went to my parents' house for delivery and managed to submit the synopsis a day before my son was born. My youngest child was born and he never slept at night. And this helped me write my thesis in peace without any disturbance. I remember rocking the cradle and reading material. And when he dozed off, would immediately start writing. My conservative parents were supportive as long as I put my children in top priority. I managed to submit my thesis before I went back to my mom-in-law's house. So don't think everybody will be supportive of research. You will most often have to make things work. Most of us have an inner strength that we do not really know about. We have not explored it. With God's help, we can accomplish things, but the rewards are great. So what I would like to tell you is, in case you think that there are problems to do research, it will be there. Everybody has a story. If you ask all your colleagues, I was told by Renuka that 79% of the faculty are research scholars. I mean, they have their PhDs. So I would, if you ask each one, they would have their own stories. And it's not an easy thing sometimes, but it's a lot of inner satisfaction and peace and inner strength that you get when you do this. The rewards are great. At one point in time, I was the only PhD in the English department. My head came to me years later and said that I was her inspiration to complete my PhD. She remembered the image of me rocking the cradle with one hand and preparing my pieces with the other. And for my head also, it propelled her into becoming the principal of the college. So many people imagine that their thesis should win the Nobel Prize. Many times, when I talk to my colleagues, some of them are struggling with their PhD, mainly because they have set very, very high standards. I would like to tell you that a PhD thesis is an academic exercise. Think of it that way. It's not a Nobel Prize winning object. So look at the scope of your thesis and see what you can do. Once you finish your thesis, then you can write your book based on this, which could probably win the Nobel Prize. So take a topic that you like. Most often people try to find a topic which is fashionable, attractive, or else which is the in thing, but they do not have their heart and soul in it, and they struggle. I have a colleague in my own department who's struggling mainly because it's not something which she is keen on. She's taken it because it sounds good. And so it's very difficult for her to proceed. So take a topic that you like, that you're passionate about, and find a friendly guide instead of a cranky genius. That's another problem. People want to go and work only with one particular person. I found this very strange because they do not realize that it's a 3-year or 5-year relationship that they'll have to get into with this person, and it might make their lives very difficult. I would like to challenge those of you who have not yet taken the bold step of registering for a PhD to register. Don't deny yourself the pleasure of doing it. Don't say that you cannot do it. You can do it. It's just a question of, finding that inner confidence. You have it in you, you should do it. I think sooner or later, Stella should have definitely more than 95% people who are PhD scholars. Research becomes unbearable if we do not incorporate it into our lifestyles as teachers. This is like exercise. Most often when people tell us that we have to incorporate at least 45 minutes of walking or 60 minutes of walking every day, it becomes very difficult. On the other hand, if you say, okay, every day on my way to college, this stretch will be a stretch which I walk. Or, these are the things that I will do to get that 60 minutes, automatically you'll get it. If you have to spend an extra 60 minutes, it might not work. So I think you need to incorporate these things into your lifestyle. As an English teacher, I was a regular to the college library. And one day, a librarian asked me if I was interested in applying for a UBCHEA project along with her. I was a bit reluctant as I had 2 small children who needed constant monitoring with their studies. You know how it is with little ones. If I didn't sit with them, they had a grand time. Plus, it was a new field that neither of us had tried. But she said it would be on local knowledge, and that piqued my interest. I was a big fan of National Geographic magazine at that time, and so agreed. So in my own mind, I thought this was, on a smaller scale, something similar to that. I was also teaching eco-literature by then, and so could bring in service learning components. So I thought, let me combine both, and it could help my students too. So I took students to Irulas, Mudigas, and Siddhis. It was a great learning experience for me and my students. Using small cameras, we videographed and interviewed them. The learning was immense. We discovered that they had wonderful herbal remedies for most ailments and lived on fresh produce. The Siddhi community especially lived 20 kilometers inside the forest and were inaccessible during the monsoon. On our way there, our van driver said that he was coming only because the Inspector General of Police had asked him to come. The Inspector General was the husband of my colleague, so that's how we went in. And he said the tribe was contentious and would rob people. And already we were some 10 kilometers into the jungle and we were getting a little bit scared because we were taking girls inside. At least 8 of them were there with us and the 2 of us. So we were a little bit scared. So anyway, he told us, keep your things carefully. Not that we had a lot of valuables, but he did caution us. But when we went there, we found a very friendly company of Afro-Indians. That's how I could call them because they're totally African in the way they looked, from their hair to their nose to their lips. Everything was totally African. But they wore saris, had malipu, and wore bangles and things like that. So they had adopted Indian traditions and customs, but were totally African. And it was a very interesting experience for all of us because we could sort of locate, they had a sense of rhythm just like the Africans and would break into song, and the lives that they led in that jungle 20 kilometers inside the forest and so on. They offered us tea, which we drank, and then our students emptied the water pot. They were very thirsty, so it had to be replenished. One of the ladies went to collect water, and by then the students get very friendly with these youngsters, so they followed her. The water was collected from a small pond with green slime covering it. After that, do you think the students would have had the water? All these were learning experiences for us because we take so many things for granted, especially in our city lives, urban lives. I should say that we did not lose anything and the people were very decent. So most often these perceptions are not always right. People say that these things are there. And when we interacted with the people, we got to know more and more information about how their lives were, that for many years they'd been living the lives of bonded laborers. The people around them, the communities around them exploited them. It looks like they were a group of probably slaves brought from Africa by the British and who had run away or something like that and settled here. That's what some of the history books say. But these people say, no, we are totally Indians because they're scared that they'll be deported or something like that. Anyway, it was very interesting and we could collect a lot of information about these people. These people had started because NGOs had started working with them and they had started sending their children to boarding schools so that they would become aware of their rights and not be exploited by the communities which lived around them. So it was a very interesting exposure to the lives led by these people. Then we visited the Mudugas who lived in the fringes of Silent Valley. Now the Mudugas were given homes, government houses, but all of them would congregate before one single house as they believed in communal living. So many times we do not understand the psyche of these tribal people. And the Mudugas always had lived inside Silent Valley. So they built houses made of bamboo. And when they shifted, they would just take those bamboo poles, tie it up, and then go and set up a house somewhere else. It was very interesting to learn about their lives and their songs. Many of their equipments were made of bamboo. They had rat traps made of bamboo, uh, musical instruments made of bamboo, and so on. Very interesting lifestyles. And we had conversations with the old people to learn about their culture, because the youngsters were slowly moving into just film songs and things like that. And they were very surprised that we were not interested in them, but we're interested in the old people, because they have this wrong notion that all that is old is rubbish. They do not understand that it's a wealth of knowledge. The treasure that these old people have is something which has to be cherished. They did not understand that. So when we were tape recording these songs and things like that, they realized that probably there's something to what these old people say, to the wisdom. So there was give and take on both sides also, because for those people, we taught them that their traditions are to be valued, and it is important for us, even for people like us, to learn how to lead simple lives. And for them, probably it would give them some insights on, that many of their old ways have to be cherished, have to be nurtured among the youngsters too, and so on. Through our interaction with these people, we learned about simplicity, hard work, and joy obtained from simple things, apart from knowledge garnered. And of course, there were lots of other lovely things, like you look up at the night sky and you see a million stars. And uh, these people did not have electricity. So towards night, we were moving away from their hamlet back to where we were. And they had these torches made out of, I think, banana, dried banana things wound up and lit along with some cloth or something like that. Very interesting, very primitive, but uh, it's an eye opener of what the other half of the world looks like and lives. So coming back, what we did was we garnered a lot of information from these communities. We prepared learning modules, and it helps subsequent generations of students. Every year we cannot afford to, because that particular year we had got, so 2 years we were able to take students, 2 different batches of students, and we made these into learning modules so that it would benefit subsequent generations of students. And actually we'd uploaded it for a long time. Then of course it's no longer there on the net, but we have it so that we can show our students. Hopefully we will be able to put it up again on the internet. Anyway, so after that, what happened was that the two of us teachers, we presented papers at international conferences in Hong Kong, China, and later at Taiwan. So research can take you a long way. It can take you across the globe, give you thrilling experiences that you can only dream about. I could only dream about things when I was reading National Geographic. I never realized that on a small scale in my own country, I would be able to do all these interesting things. In the first place, I didn't even know that a community like Siddhi or Mudugas existed. So this is what happens to you when you start your work as a researcher. Apart from this, as I mentioned, you incorporate it into your regular life as a teacher. It makes your teaching sharper and interesting. You may be wondering how research can make you sharper or creative. I can give you the example of a memorable teacher who taught me a biology practical class at Randolph-Macon College, USA during my UB Fellows program. He had to teach a quantitative analysis component and also about data collection and data analysis. I was bored because I'm an English teacher, and anything to do with numbers does not make me excited. And my other students, I mean, my other classmates are also not very excited. We were only 7 of us in the class. So this particular teacher, every class, he would take us to different places. So this particular day, he took us to a graveyard. Now, the graveyards in America are beautiful. They're not like our pathetic looking ones. These look more like a garden. So he divided us into 3 groups, and we had to collect information on the people who died, like because it's all very well arranged. So people who died between, let's say, 1920 to 40 would be in one area, 40 to 60 would be in another area, and so on. So he divided us into 3 groups and made us take down data. He had asked us to list out details like gender, age, and so on, and how many people had died. So we quickly, it was very easy because the ages died at the age of 40. So, okay, 40, so many people. Woman, we could sort of tick and then make the necessary numbers, the details. And then we had all these things figured out. And then when we came back, he told us to put it all in an Excel sheet, which is pretty simple because we had data on this 3 periods from, I think, 1900 to 1960 or something like that. We had, no, I think we had up to 1990 probably. Yes, 30, 30, 30 he had given us. So 30, 60, 90, yes. So 3 such groups that he had divided us into, and he made us do some simple calculations to come up with tangible results. It was amazing because we could make out how many women died before the age of 40, how many infants died during that period, and we found that between 20 to 30 or something, there were a number of infant deaths. Probably there was some plague or heaven knows what, but it was, the amount of data that you can get from the simple exercise was simply amazing. Now, for a person like me, it was very interesting. And if you ask me whether data analysis is boring, I'll never say that it's boring. Though initially I had my reservations. It's mainly because of the way he conducted the whole class. And it was a very interesting experience for me because when I went into this place, that's the first time I saw a pecan tree. I love pecan nuts. So for me, looking at the tree was something wonderful. And it was a wonderful cold afternoon with mild snow. Holding a pencil in my numb fingers and then trying to write things was something unforgettable for me. And not just that, the lesson that I learned from this man who could make a tough subject a boring subject very interesting. So definitely, if you do enough research, you will know how to make things interesting, how to simplify things so that you make your students interested and passionate about these things. Research has become integral for the growth of the institution today. You are judged by your research output, but research will also improve the quality of your teaching as your knowledge base increases. Your classes will never be the same, and your research will help build creativity, leadership, reading, analysis, problem solving, and cognitive abilities. It will foster critical thinking and analytical skills through hands-on learning and will expand knowledge and understanding of a chosen field. So what I would like to tell you is that it definitely improves your reading because you will go back and read up on, the literature. So to better understand a situation or whatever it is that you have to do. Plus, your lessons will never be the same year after year. The constant criticism that many teachers get is, they keep repeating their lectures. What you have learned this year will also get repeated next year. So they have their notes, and so those notes are constantly repeated. But if you are a person who does research, you can never do that because you're constantly expanding your horizon and your knowledge. So I'm sure that your classes will be very exciting. No one can say that they are only teachers and not researchers. Earlier, people would say, oh, we are only a teaching institution. We are not a research based institution. If you want your institution to reach greater heights, all of you will have to work with the mindset that you're both teachers and researchers at the same time. Research and teaching go hand in hand. Even to prepare an ordinary lesson, I think you need to do a little bit of research. If you don't do that, then you're just spouting something and moving away. This is what your lesson is like today. This is what it was like yesterday. And what is it going to be like for future generations? If you look at all these things, I think each class of yours will definitely be very interesting and challenging to everybody who hears it. So wishing you all a wonderful time as researchers. Thank you once again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Jasper, for sharing that hands-on exploratory experience of research from your own side. It was very inspiring as well as informative. And we also note that the way in which you have, as an institutional leader, recognized the importance of research in shaping the academic development and the character and of the organization as such. We also note with thanks the way in which you have foregrounded that research is an integral part of institutional development and faculty personal development as well. So you have also maintained excellent timing. Thank you so much for being with us here for this inaugural session, and all the best to you. And we will now move on to the second part of our program. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So it is, we are happy to note, welcome Father Dr. Ignacy Muthu for joining us promptly at 10:40, and Dr. Jasper too has wrapped up her session quite on time. So we look forward to what you are going to disseminate for this second session. It is my privilege to welcome our student dean and member of the FMM fraternity, Dr. Sister Stella, to introduce the keynote speaker for this session. Over to you, Dr. Stella.
Good morning to one and all. I take this an opportunity, honor, and privilege to introduce Reverend Father Dr. S. Inasimuthu, S.J. Father studied his BSc Botany at Loyola College, Chennai, and secured distinction and university second rank. He completed his MSc Botany at St. Joseph College, Trichy, and secured university first rank and gold medal. He completed his MPhil and PhD in the field of genetics from the University of Delhi with outstanding merit. Doctor of Science in the field of plant biotechnology from the University of Madras in 2001. Father is one of the very few scientists to acquire this degree. Father held various posts in different institutions. To mention a few, he was the principal of St. Xavier's College, Palangotte, director of Entomology Research Institute, Loyola, Chennai. Then he became the principal of Loyola College, Chennai. In October 2000, he was appointed Vice Chancellor of Bharatiyar University, Coimbatore. In June 2002, he was appointed Vice Chancellor of University of Madras, Chennai. As Principal and Vice Chancellor, he made a mark in administrations and academic reforms, like introducing teacher evaluation by students, establishing post-students scholarships, introducing choice-based credit system, introducing semester system with credits, and compulsory social service scheme. Apart from being an able and good administrator, Father is known all over the world as a good scientist. He has published more than 800 research papers and 80 books. Some of his books on biotechnology, bioinformatics, bioethics, and environment are used as textbooks in universities and colleges. His books on basic good manners, values for life, being good and successful are used as textbooks for value educations and personality development in many universities and colleges. His Tamil book on environmental awareness got the Best Book Award for Tamil Nadu government in 1995. He was awarded Tamil Nadu Scientist for Life Science 2000 by Tamil Nadu government. He was also given Kamaraj Award for Research on Environmental Management by Government Tamil Nadu in 2009. The Royal Entomological Society, London, awarded Fellow of Royal Entomological Society for his outstanding contribution in entomology. Father has carried out already more than 40 major research projects funded by government agencies. He helped more than 100 students to get their doctoral degrees. He has 10 Indian patents and 2 US patents. During COVID-19 season, Father and his scientists developed Xavier sanitizer, which is marketed by a company. He also has visited many countries as a visiting scientist. American Biographical Institute, USA, and International Biographical Center, England have identified him as one of the 1,000 great scientists in the world. Stanford University professors have identified him as one of the top 1% scientists in the world in the field of biology. We are indeed glad to have you, Father, today to speak on the topic on research approaches and related ethics. Thank you, Father. Over to you, Father.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this nice introduction. I will just now start my sharing related to the topic of the day. As you are all aware, research today is contributing much for the welfare of people, and therefore it is ideal that all of us think and learn something good about this research and continue to promote research as much as possible in our own lives. Can you see the slides, please?
Not yet, sir, Father.
Oh, just hold on. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm making it all.
Yes, it's visible
Okay.
now, Father. Yes. It's
Okay, so
excellent.
we need to know something basically about what is research and why we carry out research and how it can also be helpful in promoting knowledge, and what are some of the ethical implications that we need to consider with regard to research. Okay. Basically, what is research? It is a search for facts. It is an organized inquiry. So when we are able to carry out research, we want to find certain facts related to an idea or a hypothesis or anything that we are planning or a question, and it promotes organized inquiry. It is a systematic investigation and the study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and research conclusions. So we carry out investigation in a systematic manner, and we collect a lot of materials and data, and we prove certain points or disprove certain points, reach certain conclusion. This is how the research is intended to be. It investigates normally a proposal, a hypothesis, and also suggests new interpretations of data and poses some new questions for future work. So any research is not complete, as we know. So we can always say the possibility for future people to carry on with the work that we have started. What is important is it provides the best means of training and sharpening our intellect, as the previous speaker has also pointed out. It is one of the important area where we can train our mind, sharpen our intellect, because it is leading us to look for newer and newer things. and it sows the seed for new applications. Most of the research ultimately ends up in some kind of products or some developments where lot of benefits are accruing, and therefore it sows the seed for new applications. And it is also the foundation for any development. Every country today invests a lot of money in research, particularly in different fields of research, because they know the benefit of ultimately coming up with new products. For example, the latest one you can see, Corona, and every country was interested in developing a vaccine and finding new drugs or medicines. So that is a foundation for any development. What it requires is dedication, involvement, and curiosity. This was also mentioned by the previous speaker. You know, when you have a curious mind, you will always be interested to know more things. Curiosity, if you want to know what is curiosity, please meet the children. They will be the one who will be very curious to know why the train is running, why the sky is blue, why the grass is green. And the mothers will have tough time answering all the queries which the children raise out of real sheer curiosity. So we need to have that type of curiosity and also deep involvement and dedication if at all we want to do something in our research. Now, the research cycle we can summarize in short like this. First is the identification of a problem, any question that you want to answer. Then you make a research design, plan how to go about it. Then collect the data necessary to the idea that you have generated, analyze the data, and ultimately bring it out in the form of a publication or as a product which may be useful for people. So this is how the research cycle works. And the types of research are mainly two types. One is basic or pure or fundamental research. That is, you want to know or understand some fundamental principles, and therefore you carry on with this research. Some mathematical things are related to this kind of basic pure fundamental research. It arises out of curiosity. Immediately there may not be any commercial benefit, but in the long run maybe the foundation, or it may form the basis for some new developments and so on. The second type is applied research. Applied research is done with a view to develop something with a direct application. For example, there is some problem to be solved and you want to do applied research, so immediate problems can be solved. Simple example, as I already mentioned, is this COVID-19, Corona. It came all of a sudden, there was no drug available, and scientists were putting their heads together to find out a way, and so many types of vaccines are today available to combat that. That is the applied research. Action-oriented research is also with a view to take immediate action to overcome difficulties. This is also related to the idea that I shared just now. Anytime you have some problem, you want to solve it, look for answers through research. Now, what are the basic things that we need to look into? Adopt scientific methods. It is based on observable evidences. It is analytical, it is critical, and it is systematic. So basically, these are the characteristics that are filling up a research idea. Now, creative ideas are very important, as we know. When anything you want to innovate or use some creative ideas, creative notions, creative thoughts, these are the ones which will be very, very useful in research. And there is a high demand, as we know, today for innovative ideas and so on. And when that kind of talent is nurtured, and we also collaborate with many other people, cutting across disciplines, that is interdisciplinary type of research. Today we know a lot of groups are collaborating together to find the solution for some problems. Then also there will be greater economic benefits, and ultimately what is important is raising critical questions. Every time, at every stage of our research, We should constantly evaluate, review, and raise critical questions to find answers. What are the components of research? I already mentioned this little earlier. A research design. Once a design is available, we go for a baseline survey of the situation, then look for certain literature survey, ultimately form a hypothesis. We'll see whether this study is feasible, then go for data collection, finalize all the data, and then look for the tools to look into, ultimately going in to finalizing your materials. This research findings, it's a blueprint for collection, methodology, for example, measurement and analysis of data. It helps to avoid repetition and move science forward. It helps in smooth going of all research operations, reduces inaccuracy, increases efficiency and reliability. Literature survey and consultation with the experts are very essential to promote research activity. So when we do literature survey, we know what has been done already. Thomas Alva Edison used to be very famous for this statement that when we read, we know what others have done and what they have succeeded in or what they have not succeeded in. That will be the stepping stone for us to move further in our research. And consulting some experts also will be very useful and helpful. What are the components of good research? I already mentioned to you the background information, hypothesis to be tested, objectives of the study to be clearly planned. Then the methodology. Methodology is very important. We have to have standard methods so that others can verify whatever we are finding as data and then come to some conclusion. Then look into the feasibility, whether the study can be carried out, whether you have the money, you have the power, you have the time, and so on. Ultimately, put up a budget and a time frame and start your work. Then the data collection will imply by you collect data by which the researcher is collecting information to test a hypothesis. So normally we follow suitable, well accepted, quantitative and updated devices or tools or methods to gather data. For science students, it is normally well established methods. For art students, humanities, and they also have certain data tools which are helpful. So all these have to be studied beforehand, and then the reliable one, suitable one has to be taken up. This will help us to get qualitative, reliable, and reproducible data. This is what is very important in research. You cannot say, I did research and I got this, and if somebody else wants to repeat it and if they do not get it, is not reproducible. So our research will come into some question. So it should be qualitative, reliable, and reproducible. So the data collection, in order to be made useful, must be having good methods and tools. And it is also very helpful to achieve international confidence. For example, when people compare various studies, they say, okay, internationally it is much valid, accepted, and for this one important parameter for this is citation. If your article is cited by somebody, then they say, okay, what you did was good and it is a model for others and so on. I will talk on that a little later. Now, how do you summarize all the research output? It is only to disseminate our research findings. Ultimately, after doing research, if you simply close it in a container and put it, it is not going to help anybody. So we must be able to disseminate in the form of technical report or a journal article or a book chapter, a poster, slide presentation, manual, whichever way you choose. We should be ready to communicate this to some others so that it is disseminated. And publication in journals is one form of disseminating the scientific knowledge. And it is an essential step, not only for individual, but also for institutions. Now, research papers can be done in different ways. Research publication is defined as an organized description of hypotheses, methods, data, and conclusions regarding a research. So it can be a short essay written by somebody, or it can be a material based on personal research, like gathering resources, a review article or something. Then different types of papers are there: original research paper, short reports, perspectives, my view on certain things, and so on. And then a review, collecting various publications and bringing out an article. So these are some of the ways through which research papers can be published. What can be published and what cannot be published? One is new and original results or methods. Then significant enhancement of published work and review of a particular subject. So these are the things which are in demand, which can be published. What cannot be published? The reports of no research interest. Well, suppose people are not at all interested and you bring out something and you want to publish, publications may not be interested to accept. Out of date work, completely out of date with the present day proceedings, people may not be interested to work. And duplication of previously published work. This also we cannot do, multiplying and duplicating what others. And then coming with incorrect conclusions. This cannot be also published. So mostly the peer-reviewed journals look into all this and then they decide whether your paper is worth publishing. And so keep this in mind when we want to publish something. Okay. Now coming to the deliverables, this publication is a permanent record of research. It is also an evidence for the acquired skill for a particular young researcher. It helps in communicating scientific findings. It also reaches out to wide audience outside of our research place, and therefore many people who are interested in this research will also come to know about us. And it helps us also to assess the performance of a researcher on the institute and the journal. So it has so many implications. So when I publish some good paper, a lot of people come to know about it. That institution also gets recognition, and then ultimately the journal also gets recognition. So these are all interlinked cycles that are very, very helpful in any research. Now, there are two types of journals: indexed journals, non-indexed journals. Indexed simply means a journal is selected on the basis of certain qualities, and these indexed journals are considered superior than non-indexed journals. And various indexing services are available, like for science, for example, Scopus, Web of Science, Indian Citation Index. These are all citations which are helpful in assessing whether a journal is a good one or not. You may be aware, University Grants Commission has also come out with a list of journals in which you can publish. So some of them may be indexed, some of them may not be indexed, but India considers the University Grants Commission for its purpose considers some of them as good level journals. So we must always look for journals which are recognized, which are approved, so that our publications will reach out to people. Many agencies and institutions consider publications only in indexed journals for any assessment, for improvement, for things like that. So when, for example, NIRF, Government of India has introduced this for various institutions, colleges, and so on, universities, and that NIRF is based mostly on this parameter of indexed journals. They look for only those which are available in Scopus and Web of Science, and therefore they give credit or no credit, like that. Then coming to metrics. Metrics is, yeah, anything? It's a metrics is a quantitative analysis of scientific research. Okay, anything that we are coming out with, it can be quantitatively measured, and it uses various statistical tools to find out, and also it provides some insight into the influence, whether our article is read by somebody, it has certain influence, and so on. And it is can be classified under journal metrics, author metrics, article metrics, and so on. So there are various types of assessment, quantitative, giving certain kind of value to what we write or publish. And the metrics are Journal metrics are used to determine the quality of journal using, for example, impact factor. Impact factor is nothing but the number of citations of a particular article published in a particular year in comparison to the number of articles published in the previous year and so on. So there is a question of calculation. It is a parameter used. Then they calculate what is known as 5-year impact factor and also normalized impact factor and so on. So impact factor of a journal is one of the important criterion used in selecting a journal for publication. And another area is any publication which is not cited is considered less worthy. And therefore, it is better to look for indexed journals and also look for some impact factor journals and go for some kind of citation index. Now, based on the citation index, there are certain other calculations like Hutch index and 0-10 index and so on, which help us to know the value of what we are publishing. Publishing in indexed journals will imply, before writing a manuscript, we must evaluate whether our results are original, whether our results are interesting, whether our results are advancing the present knowledge, whether our results are sufficient enough to substantiate some hypothesis or parameter. Then always we should consult our superiors and colleagues in order to finally reach out. Then identify the right audience and journals, study the author guidelines of a journal, and then the impact factor of the journal, and then prepare according to the guidelines and arrange them in order of preference. Don't submit to multiple journals at the same time. We should just submit only to one journal and wait for their reply to proceed further. How do you present a good manuscript? Have a useful scientific message, logically arrange the materials, present in the best possible manner, and transmit the findings concisely and clearly. Avoid being repetitive and also avoid being verbose. Sometimes people use different words to say the same thing, sorry, which is not needed. So avoid being verbose and being repetitive. Now, the composition of any kind of manuscript of a research paper will have something like this: the title of a paper, then the author with affiliation, an abstract and keywords, introduction, methodology, results, discussion, acknowledgement, if any, then references, and supplementary data. So for those of you who are already in this publication level, you will know these are repetitions. But for the newcomers, kindly know this is how a manuscript should be composed with the various parameters. And the topics, when we go for, we should look for tables, figures, and supplementary data, the results, and the discussion, conclusion and introduction, abstract and title, and others. So all these will be part of the manuscript preparation that we do. Ultimately, what is the topic should be very simple, concise, and it should not have any abbreviation, the title. And the authors, normally whoever have done the experiment and contributed majorly must be the first author, and the guide who has helped must be also second author. Those who have not given any input into the paper or into the work, they should not be considered authors. They are referred to as ghost authors. They do not contribute at all, but want to find their name. That is unethical. I will mention that to you later when we come to ethics. So it should be avoided. Only those who have at least read the paper, corrected and added some sentences, such kind of people should be given credit. So completely important for us to use only correct people. And the affiliation should be correct and updated. And the abstract is the whole summary of the manuscript is given in the abstract in very short words. Number of words will be maximum 400. It describes everything, aim, methods, results, and the conclusion. It is a kind of summary of all the findings. It is very important because we should be accurate and use specific words. There will be no reference whatsoever and no abbreviation also here in this summary. Then the introduction is something related to the background information and the importance of the present work, the scope of the present work, the relevance of the present work. Here we can give quite many references related to what we are describing in the introduction. And the materials and methods, as I already mentioned to you, use well-known established tools or methods so that it will be repeatable or very viable by somebody later on. And the instruments and methods involved, all that should be included here, and with the references and also the materials which are here. We must avoid incomplete description. When we are describing methods, we should not give incomplete description. Somebody else may like to follow your method, should be clear and evident for others to carry out. Then coming to the results section, already we highlighted, only the actual findings must be included, and they can be presented in the form of tables and figures with headings and subheadings, and also in a clear manner, no interpretation whatsoever. Results means only results, presenting the results. Only interpretation will come in the, the discussion part. Now, the discussion is related to interpretation in relation to published literature, and also as much as possible use quantitative descriptions, highlight important results and expand on them, interpret them. Avoid imagination, avoid suddenly introducing new terms or ideas, and it should only have scientific validity. That is part of in discussion. And in the summary, you again summarize what you more or less gave it in the synopsis or the abstract in the beginning. It is only to say how much you have advanced in this field. Do not repeat the results and indicate only its usefulness and so on. This is how normally a manuscript is prepared, and before sending it for any submission, thorough proofreading is very, very important. Simple and clear language, see the logical flow, avoid ambiguity, follow standard instructions, always keep time management. Do not submit the manuscript without proper revision. Suppose you submitted to one journal and they have given you or rejected you and given lot of improvement suggestions. Please carry out all those before you think of submitting to the next. Then the acceptance possibility will be much higher. Okay, coming to the second part of this research. What are the basic ethical principles which we should keep in mind, and what should guide us in our research? You know, there are basic ethical principles like respecting autonomy. Respecting autonomy means that no individual should be coerced, or no individual should be, intruded with. Each one has a right to determine what they want. So that is the basic ethical principle. Second basic ethical principle is non-maleficence. That is, not to inflict harm intentionally. No one should be harmed through our research that we are carrying out. And third important basic principle is beneficence. That is, to act for the benefit of others. Anything that I do should benefit other people. So that is a fundamental basic principle in ethics, and it is also binding on research. And the last element is justice, that is fair and equitable consideration for all, that everyone is equally taken into account and all the benefits will be shared equally with everyone and so on. Confidentiality is one important area in the ethical, that is, you not only keeping it confidential in yourself, you should also get the approval of the people whom are going to be involved in your research. That is also part of the confidentiality thing. Now, various types of research are going on. As you know, bioethics is one area. Business ethics, today people talk a lot about business ethics, then medical ethics, environmental ethics, governance ethics, social ethics. All these are part of the general umbrella of ethics, which is a governing principle, guiding principle for anything that we do. So coming to our research ethics is basically related to everything connected with the basic ethical principles in every field if we are involved in that field. And we should have an ethical outlook in everything that we do. It helps us take correct and right decisions. When we have ethical principles and moral principles at foundation, it will help us to take correct and right decisions. And also it leads us to sound ethical behavior. We will be morally sound and ethically also very clear. So when we behave, our behavior also will show that we are a morally and ethically correct person. And it requires the ability to reason, to understand the consequences, and to make the choices for any action that we take. So ethics guides us to understand and to make the correct choices. Now, the different ethical standards, various organizations and departments have given clear guidelines related to various actions. For example, if you carry out any research on microbes, any research on plants, any research on animals, any research on people related work, or if you are collecting data related to people, when you go and you conduct interview, for all these, there are established ethical standards and guidelines given, which you can easily download from various, Google internet search. All of them will give you clearly what are the ethical standards and principles to be followed. And one example here I have given is the Department of Biotechnology, Department of Environment, Forests and Climate Change, Medical Council, Consumeristic Council. All of them have their clear ethical standards indicated, so that these are the principles which we should follow when we carry out research. Now, research ethics will imply when we do research, we should be ready to give due acknowledgement to anyone who has contributed to our work, not only by way of thanking, but also acknowledging the writing which they do. Otherwise, we will get into the problem of plagiarism, which I will just now come down very soon. So, due acknowledgement to anyone who has contributed to our research output, and giving credit to the source from where we are getting, and also getting prior consent, very important. So when I'm going to, for example, collect certain sample from people, for example, we conducted a small inquiry on malnutrition. There is a now problem related to young adolescent children. They have a lot of anemia problem. So we wanted to help them with a small herbal medicine, give them the dose, ask them to take for 3 months, and then check whether anemia has decreased or increased or some things like that. Before we do this, we should get clearly explain to the people, get their consent, both from the parents and from the children. Very, very important. So the prior consent is one of the important area of the research ethics. When others are involved, we have to get prior consent. When animals are involved, as I already mentioned to you, there is a medical council which gives clear indications, environmental protection, biodiversity authority, all of them have clear ideas where we need to give prior permission and so on. Then we should be honest in presenting our work. Absolutely no cooking up. Everything should be based on finding what we have done. And okay, we should avoid any kind of dishonest work related to research. And not finding shortcuts. We should not find any shortcut to present our material to just pleasantly make people happy and things like that. So these are some basic research ethics points which we should keep in mind. And when you come to publication ethics, data fabrication is a very serious offense. And there are also journals nowadays who have a lot of software to discover this, and also plagiarism. It is two types of plagiarism. One is general plagiarism, when we copy from somebody else. Self-plagiarism is copying from what I have done by myself. I have published something earlier, and I simply repeat word for word in another article. That will come under self-plagiarism. So both have to be avoided. So plagiarism, data fabrication, all these should be completely avoided. And lack of acknowledgement of prior research, that also we should always avoid. Always give acknowledgement to prior research, prior finding, any publication, and inappropriate authorship. I already mentioned this to you. There are some people, because they seem to be head or director, their name should be included. No, not at all needed. Provided they contribute something financially or otherwise, by way of ideas, by discussion, by writing or correcting. Otherwise, it is inappropriate to give authorship to others. And any conflict of interest we should disclose. Very important. Many journals today ask for this. Kindly disclose all the conflict of interest. If at all you have received money from a company, and the company wants to get a result which they desire, then automatically that will be conflict of interest. So those things have to be kept in mind. And never duplicate submission. That is, you should not send the same manuscript to two different journals at the same time. Always wait for hearing from them. And okay, ultimately coming to my conclusion, I'm just going to say, what is research? We already explained to you. It is an organized inquiry, and it requires curiosity and dedication, very basic elements which are needed. And we need to have good data, very much data. Therefore, methodology has to be followed, and data collection has to be ultimately reach to certain conclusion and write down and ultimately publish them. Very important. And when we are going in for publication, today you are somebody in Stella Maris College, but when you publish, you are known all over the world as somebody so and so from Stella Maris who has done this work. So that is one beauty of reaching out to people through publication. It is your real identity card. And therefore, I always used to encourage my students and the teachers in the institutions to publish and bring name and fame, not only for yourself but also to the institution in which you are involved. And ultimately follow the ethical principles, adhere to them. They will help you and guide you to move forward. So, coming to the last words, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Einstein, one of the famous scientists. Thank you. All the best. God bless. If you have some questions, you are most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Father, for your rather wide, comprehensive, informative, and most edifying presentation. At this point, I would like to know if any one of you have any questions. You can unmute, and Father has also time managed perfectly, so we have a time for maybe one question, or I invite all of you through email to share your questions, and we will be able to sort of interact with Dr. Father Ignacio Mutu and get your answers. So as of now, if anyone has a question, please go ahead. All right. So I take that that we can coordinate this later on with you, Father, if you don't mind. And I think the overview, there's a comment that your overview has been much appreciated. Thank you. And so now we draw to the concluding section of our program, the 2-day program that we had on research matters. And before I invite my co-host to extend the vote of thanks, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my organizing team for their invaluable support. My thanks are due to Assistant Professor Charulata and Assistant Professor Swati Sheshadri, who has contributed completely to the technical aspects of this program. Thank you so much, Swati, and to Dr. Catherine Anita of the Research and International Programs Office for all your substantive efforts in shaping this Research Matters webinar. I now call upon Ms. Swati Sheshadri to propose the vote of thanks. Over to you, Swati.
Thank you, Renuka ma'am. On behalf of the Stella Maris Research and International Program Center, the Stella Maris Research Council, and the Research Ethics Committee, I thank our speakers for the day, Dr. Lillian Jasper and Dr. Father Ignacy Muthu, for taking time off their busy schedule to be with us here today. Thank you, Father Ignacy Muthu. Your session on research approaches and ethics has been beneficial to all the budding researchers present here today. You took us through the entire journey of how a research must be conducted. I'm sure this will help in our research endeavors. We look forward to incorporating what we have learned today in our research activities. I once again place on record our sincere and heartfelt thanks to our principal, Dr. Sister Rosie Joseph, our secretary, Sister Susan, and the management for their continuous support and guidance. I would like to thank Ms. Shakti Priya from the Fine Arts Department for her creative support to the success of the program. A big thank you to Dr. Lakshmi Priya, Dr. Sister Stella Mary, and Ms. Charulata for their support towards the program. And once again, a big thank you to the audience for their active participation in these sessions on day 1 and day 2. Once again, thank you to all the participants. We will now conclude the program with the college song.
Thank you and all the best. God bless. Close Vanilla.
Just a quick, the feedback link will be put up in the chat box. Participants are required to fill in the feedback form. The feedback form will be open only for 2 hours, so kindly fill in the form as soon as the link is up. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Renuka, Swati, and